Hi, I'm Scott Rivera. Those of you who don't know me, I'm a real estate broker here in Bakersfield, and over the last 17 years, I've helped thousands of people buy homes or sell homes. And also during that same time, I've had a TV show that's basically that you're kind of watching right now. It's called the Best Buys of Bakersfield Real Estate Show. And normally what I do, and what Sheree does, my co-host, we normally will narrate homes and talk about loans and all that. But today's show, I'd like to do a little differently. I'd like to cover basically what it takes to sell a home. So think of it like a mini lesson or a mini class on selling a home. I have people that call me and they'll say, Scott, can you come out to the house and give me an idea of what it takes to sell a home and how much you can sell it for and the process and all that. So today, that's what I'm going to do. Act as if I'm in your house. You've called me out and we're going to talk about what we would talk about if I was there at your house. Over the last 17 years, after selling lots and lots of homes, I've basically come up to a formula that there's 4 factors that sell a house. I wish I could say it's a real estate agent that's the most important factor, but it's not. There's basically 4 things, and I'm going to cover those today. 4 things are exposure, people have to know about it. 2, presentation. 3, the market. And number 4, ultimately the price. Those are the 4 things that basically combine, put together, sell a house. Now, let's go into each one in detail. All right, let's cover the first factor in selling your home, and that's exposure. What I mean by exposure is that people need to know that your house is for sale. The more people that know your house is for sale, the more likely that it is going to sell. It's pretty simple. If you want to sell your house and you just tell your friends at work that your house is for sale, the likelihood of you selling it's probably not that high. If you tell the whole world that your house is for sale, obviously the likelihood that you're going to find somebody that's a match for it is higher. Okay, so now let me give you an idea what I mean by detailed exposure. When I first started real estate, which was in 1985, so what is that, 31 years ago, that was in San Diego, we started off and I worked for a company, and the goal was to get the house that you listed in this book. So all us real estate agents would look in this book on particular properties that were available for sale. That's the only way we knew that homes were for sale, was through this book and also the newspaper. Those were the 2 main sources of, I would call it, exposure. It's changed a lot since then. So it went from books and newspapers to magazines, and then a few years back it changed to computers. And then after computers, it's even changed now even more, and that's to the internet. So we basically, as real estate agents, we use this thing called the multiple listing service, which is all internet based. We list homes, we as a group, we put them on this database, and this database then houses where all these, where you can get access information for all the homes that are available. So the MLS is an internet based, I would call it a portal for showing that your home is available for sale. That's one thing. And then plus that, all the other websites that are out there. So you got MLS, and then you got Realtor.com, Trulia.com, Zillow, and all the hundreds of other websites that you need to actually have your house appear on. And why do I say it needs to be there? Because your home, or actually people search for homes. Where do they search for them? The first place they go to right now is their phone. So if it doesn't show up on that device, then you in turn, your house is getting fewer people looking at it. And that's a factor that's a factor that factors in to whether your house sells or not. So that's exposure. It's basically more people, the more likely your house is going to sell. All right, now let's cover the second thing that's, I would call, a factor in selling a home, and that would be presentation. And you've seen stuff like this on HGTV and all that. This is probably one of the more common topics to talk about, and that's basically what your house looks like, what it smells like, even what it sounds like. Those are all factors that you're going to take into consideration when selling a home. So let's just, what does that mean? Well, when a person drives up and your house looks fresh and beautiful, and there's roses, and the driveways are clean, and it's all painted nicely. Well, that's a great factor. Also, what your neighbor's house looks like, and whether there's an RV parked right next to you, or a beat-up bus, or a car with a jacked-up wheels next to it. Those are all factors that you take into consideration when people drive up. When they come in, what are you looking for? You're looking for, I call it light, bright, and decluttered. Those are the main factors. And when I say decluttered, that's probably the most painful topic I have to talk about when I go out to people's homes. It's kind of difficult sometimes. I walk into a house and I really need to tell them they need to remove 80% of everything they have in the house. Why? Because it's going to detract from the sale of their house. When there's if you're there and you have a treadmill or one of those, reclining bicycles, and it's right in the middle of your living room, that doesn't go over well. It's not going to be something that you're going to want to keep in order to sell your house. Now, everybody has clutter, so don't take it personal. Everybody does, but the less clutter you have, the more likely, the bigger your house is going to look, and the more likely your house is going to sell for a higher price. So what do you need to do is you get rid of, I would say, about 80-90% of the stuff that you have that's just hanging around the shelves, on the counters. You're going to get rid of it. You're going to hide it. You're going to take it out into the garage. Now, clutter is okay for the garage. That's not a problem. But clutter any other place is not good. Now, what else does it mean by presentation? That means light and bright. If you want my personal opinion, what sells is when someone walks in the house and it's dark. That doesn't go over very well. The more you can make it look light, the more you can open all the windows, make sure that the paint's a little bit lighter, make sure it's light, and make sure it's bright. Those are important factors. And then also smell. When people walk in, you do not want it smelling, call it distinctly. You want a neutral smell. You don't. So that would be something you want to take in consideration. Those are things you kind of know about, but it's something that people don't know the importance of. And like I said, and you'll see me say things over and over again, because it's probably the big topic I do talk about when I go to your house, and that's clutter. So if you have anything that you don't need in a particular room, it's more profitable to take it out. Even though you think that you may need it, it's better to just get it out, because it does. And why do I say this? When I go in there to take pictures, you'll see that the pictures, if there's a lot of clutter, guess what shows up? The clutter, not the house. So you want to make sure that when you go in, if there's extra stuff, just get rid of it, because it will detract from the sale. All right, so what else am I talking about when I talk about presentation? The backyard, any of all the stuff that you have out there, you're going to get rid of if it's, call it, especially if you have a smaller backyard or a smaller house. The less stuff you have in it, the better. If you don't have your backyard landscaped very well, you just need to kind of tweak it up a little bit so that it does show well, because it is a big factor. All right, so that's basically presentation. Now, the third thing that we're going to cover would be the market. And the market is something that I didn't really consider too much when I first started out, and I paid the price for it. The market, what do I mean by that? There's so many factors that are external that affect whether your house is going to sell. Interest rates are one of them. Whether people have a positive feel for the economy or a negative feel for the economy. Whether, like in Bakersfield, whether the oil prices are going up or the oil prices are going down. Whether there's news on the paper about layoffs. Whether the time of the year. So the ultimate, there's certain periods of time that actually help you sell a house. They're more likely to sell a house than others. If you list it during Christmas season, it's not the best time in the world to sell a house, because there's just not a lot of people looking at that time. So these are all things that you take into consideration. that I would say fall under the market. Things you can't necessarily control, but things that you need to take into consideration. There was a period of time when we had people going on TV and they were talking about how the market was coming down, and it was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the minute they said that, the next thing you know, people weren't buying homes. And then the opposite occurs. You know, people come on and the national news says home prices are going up, and they expect to be going up a lot. Guess what? The market dictates then whether your house is going to sell, because then people are hopping off the fence and buying homes. So that's one thing you need to take into consideration is the market, what's going on right now with interest rates and etc. So that's the third topic. All right, let's talk about the fourth factor that you need to take into consideration when you're selling a house, and that's the price. Ultimately, the price dictates whether your house is going to sell. Let's just say you have a house that's, you know, worth somewhere around $300,000, and you price it for, let's just say, $100,000. Well, it doesn't matter what it smells like, doesn't matter whether it's light, bright, or decluttered. Ultimately, it'll sell. Why? Because it's so underpriced that people will buy it no matter what. But you don't want to do that, because you're going to leave a lot of money on the table. So that's not what you want to do. The opposite is true also. If you have a house that's around $300,000 and you price it for $500,000, it doesn't matter what it smells, how beautiful the cookies are that are baking in the oven. It doesn't matter how bright, light, and decluttered. It doesn't matter what your fabulous real estate agent does to expose it, to make sure that it pops up on everybody's phones and all that. That doesn't matter. If it's overpriced, it will never sell. So it's just, those are the factors. So when you're talking about price, what do you mean? Well, I found that there's kind of like there's like a gray area, and I call it the area of possibilities. You can sell your house within this gray area. Anything over this gray area, it's impossible to do. It's not going to happen. Why? Because it'll never appraise. Even if we found somebody to buy your house for that upper end price, it won't appraise for that price, so therefore it's probably not going to sell for that price. Same thing with the lower end. The goal, when I give you this graph, is basically we want to be in the upper portion of the area of possibilities. And how do you do that? Well, how do you establish the price that's in that possibilities? Well, first of all, you take in the time frame. A couple of mistakes I see people make are, one, I'm going to start off high and then bring it down low, or lower it if I need to. I've generally seen that not to work, and I've sold like a little over 3,400 homes, so quite a few, and I don't think that strategy works too well. As a matter of fact, I believe that there's about a 2-week window period of a time frame that you have in order to sell your house and maximize your profit. So the goal is, when you price it, is to take that time frame, 2 weeks, into consideration as your goal. You don't want to have it on the market 2 months. You want to have it on the market less than 2 weeks in order for you to accomplish, I would call that upper end of the, I call it the gray area, or the little area of possibilities there. Now, what do I mean by 2 weeks? Well, after 2 weeks, I find that you're on the offense for about 2 weeks, and after that, you become on the defense. Anyway, so how do you price it correctly? Well, you have to take a whole bunch of things in consideration. Obviously, you're going to take the market into consideration. You're going to take in the presentation, what it smells like, all that, and you're going to, how much your real estate agent's going to devote to exposure. Those are all things you're going to take into consideration when you're establishing the price. Also, what you're going to do is you're going to pull the most comparable homes that have closed within a 1/4 mile radius of your home, if there are any. If not, then you expand the area to find out what particular homes have closed, similar homes. You'll find, if yours a 4-bedroom with a pool, you're going to try to find the most comparable 4-bedroom with a pool, or even a 3-bedroom with a pool that has closed within the last 6 months. Those are the factors that you take into consideration. You'll also take into consideration the competition. If there's a house down the street that's priced for $300,000 and it's just like yours, and you want to sell yours for $330,000, then that may not be an achievable goal, because anybody that's going to buy that's going to look at your house is going to look at theirs. So you take into consideration, I don't know, the competition, you take into consideration the most recent comparable sales, you take into consideration the what your house smells like, you know, whether the floor plan is something that's popular or not, a whole bunch of things. You'll also take in consideration whether you have a pool in the summertime as opposed to a pool in the wintertime. So the market plays a factor in it too. So all of those things, plus whether yours is a 3-car garage, 4-bedroom, RV parking, all of that you take into consideration. You find a balance, and it's about 80% science and about 20%, I would call it almost experience that helps you establish the price that you're going to sell it within that 2-week period. Anyway, so I hope that helps a little bit. Those are the 4 factors. Number 1, you're talking about exposure. You got to make sure that the most people see it on their phones and it's exposed on the internet and it's put out there so that all the real estate agents can show it basically through the multiple listing service. The more people that know about your homes for sale, the more likely you are going to get a high price. The next thing, so that's exposure. The number 2 thing was what? It was presentation, what it looks like, smells like, whether it's light, bright, and of course, whether it's decluttered. Grab all your stuff, throw it in the garage. You can have a cluttered garage, that's not a problem. But other than a cluttered garage, a cluttered living room and a cluttered kitchen are going to cost you thousands of dollars. And if you have a lot of stuff, that will be your first most profitable thing you can do is get rid of a lot of it. So that's presentation. And then you're talking about the market. In Bakersfield, we're dealing with, you know, sometimes the oil prices have been affecting the market a little bit. We hear news, but right now the market's really good. After the elections have been over, the market started to pick up. There's a lot of confidence. So that's not a huge factor. If anything, I think it's a factor that's going in our favor right now. So the market isn't a huge one right now, but that's something you need to, take into consideration every time you sell a house. And then the 4th thing, obviously, which we just talked about, was the price. Anyway, those are the 4 factors that you need to take into consideration when selling a home. I've hoped you've enjoyed the mini home selling lesson, or I don't know, call it segment on the show. If you have any questions at all, you can visit me at my office, 4801 Calloway Drive, or you can call me on the office phone. The number's at the bottom of the screen. That's the 589-2222 number. Or this year I'm actually doing a lot more Facebook stuff, so hopefully maybe you'd like to go to our website and like us on Facebook. Or you can go to my website, scottrivera.com, if you'd like to see all the homes that are available in Bakersfield. And I'm rolling out a new thing. Those of you who are interested in buying new homes, I have a brand new website called New Homes Bakersfield. If you go on there, you'll take a look and you can see all the new homes in Bakersfield. Anyway, again, that's newhomesbakersfield.com. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for bearing with me and putting up with my mini segment. And if you have any questions at all, please give me a call. Thanks.